Welcome to r/reader of Reddit. In today's episode, Opie tells her mother-in-law to shut up, but before that, am I the a-hole for refusing to include another child in my math instruction for my son? My older son, 12M, is very interested in math and has the aptitude to match. Not a huge surprise, as I was the same and went on to get advanced degrees in a quantitative field. Due to my wife's job, we relocated to a smaller town. The public schools have become a mess since COVID, so we enrolled him in what is regarded as the academically strongest private school in the area. It's okay, but not nearly as good as the public school in our old home city. We supplemented son's math with an online program last year, at which he excelled. Math at school was a total waste, but he could afford the lost time. But he has a lot of interests: music, coding, bouldering, baseball, etc., and now homework load is increasing. Time is scarce, and he can't double up on math using evening time. We asked the school if he could just use his math period to go to the library and get ahead on homework, but they refused. No one to supervise was the reason given. And doing synchronous online math in the library won't work because his schedule is block and the time of day he does math moves around. My office, I'm remote, is a 3-minute walk from the school, on purpose, picked for drop-off ease. So I asked if I could take charge of his math education in the library. School agreed. My son asked if I would consider including one classmate, Jane. He vouched for her math skill, interest, and work ethic. I asked her parents if I could review her assessment results and evaluate her myself. She wasn't quite up to where my son is, but close enough that I could make it work, and she seemed very hardworking and enthusiastic. So far, so good. A few weeks into this, I get a call from the school. The parents of another student, Joe, are upset that he was not offered a chance to participate. My son's sense was that Joe doesn't like math especially and is poorly behaved. I didn't really want another kid, but I asked to see his assessments before I said no, because I assumed they'd show he wasn't ready and I could decline on non-subjective grounds. His parents shared, and indeed, he is just at grade level. When I declined, his parents got quite upset. They called the school to complain about favoritism. They called and berated me, too, insisted that if I took Jane, then I needed to take all comers, that I was discriminating against their child. We are all same race/religion. I wouldn't budge. They asked the school not to allow the accommodation for my son and Jane. I told the school that if I got any more guff, my kid was just going to do online school. He was admitted to a very high-level online program, but decided to only take one evening computer science class. The parents are bad-mouthing me to all who will listen. At first, I was silent, but now I respond that Job did not demonstrate aptitude for advanced math in my view and would not be able to keep up. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to include Joe? Am I the a-hole for giving Joe's lack of aptitude as a reason? Next story is, am I the a-hole for not choosing my stepsister as my school project partner? My 16F mom got married when I was 8 to her husband. I have a stepsister the same age as me. Before high school, we never shared classes, but now we have 3 together, and in one of them our teacher always lets us choose who to partner with for projects. We also get a study buddy, like our teacher calls it. Basically, one Friday a month we get a class where we pair up with our study buddy to study stuff. Because we always get to choose, I always choose my best friend and she always chooses me. We're study buddies and we're project partners every time in this class. My stepsister doesn't have any really close friends and she struggles to find project partners sometimes. On Friday, we were asked to choose a project partner to work with for the next 2 months on a big project our teacher wants us to do in pairs. My best friend and I chose each other like always. There were 4 kids left who had nobody to naturally pair up with, and my stepsister was one of them. She told the teacher she wanted me, but the teacher said I had already chosen my project partner, and she had 3 other kids to choose from. My stepsister really didn't want to work with the 3 choices she had, so the teacher asked if I'd swap partners for this project and work with my stepsister. I said no. My best friend said no too. She said we work really well together. When I got home after school and work Friday, my mom was waiting for me and she pulled me into the office and asked me why I didn't choose my stepsister as my project partner. She said she knew I was asked and given the choice to change, and I wouldn't. She told me after 8 years of being sisters, I should have an equally close, if not closer relationship to her than my best friend, who I met in pre-K, and I shouldn't find it so easy to say no to my stepsister. I said I enjoy working with my best friend, and we work well together, and I didn't want to change that or work with my stepsister. My mom took my phone all weekend as a consequence, and her husband told me like 10 times they expect us to put each other before any friendships because we're family. He told me the way I act. You think my best friend is my sister instead of my stepsister. My stepsister won't shut up about how sucky her partner is and how fucking angry she is that I wouldn't partner with her. Am I the a-hole? Next story is, am I the a-hole for attending my ex's wedding? I don't know if I am in the wrong or I am being gaslit. I, 36F, attended my ex's 37M wedding this weekend, and I apparently failed a test. My ex, Adam, and I dated in high school from the time we were 15 to 18 when we amicably split up to go to college in different states. Since college, we've kept in Facebook familiar contact, where we'd wish each other happy birthday or congratulate each other on big milestones, but have had no other contact in the 20 or so years since then. About a year ago, I saw his engagement post on his Facebook and congratulated him. A few months ago, he Facebook messaged me, asked how I was doing, and said he wanted to have a bit of a high school get-together at his wedding since he was holding it in our hometown. He was inviting most of our mutual friend circle, and he'd love for me to attend too. I hadn't seen most of these friends in over a decade, and I thought the idea sounded fun, so I accepted the invitation. The wedding was this past weekend, and it was incredibly normal. I attended with my husband, he got to meet all of my high school friends and their partners, and we had a great time. Sunday morning, I wake up to a slew of Facebook messages from my ex's new wife about my audacity to attend the wedding and how out of all his former girlfriends, I was the only one who failed the test. She said that clearly you shouldn't attend an ex's wedding unless you're still hung up on them, and how I must be planning to steal her new husband away. I was shocked, but also apologized if I had been unwelcomed, and how I must have misunderstood as my reason for attending was to see old friends. She immediately responded, and again said that no sane woman, with good intentions, would ever think it was okay to attend their ex's wedding. I again apologized if I was unwelcomed and hoped my presence hadn't detracted from her day. I then messaged my ex and apologized if I had misunderstood and hoped I hadn't caused any issues. He replied that he was glad I attended. The invitation had been sincere. There was no separate event planned. He was glad to see the old friend group and apologized about his new wife's messages. I left it at that, thinking it was a closed matter. A few hours later, the new wife is messaging me again, complaining about how I was trying to manipulate her new husband to make her look crazy. I decided this was not a ship I wanted to sail on, took a screenshot of all her messages and my replies, sent them to the ex, and said I was just going to go ahead and block them both, so I couldn't be accused of inappropriate contact with anyone. Yesterday, I started getting messages from the bride's sister saying I poisoned my ex against his new wife, and I should have kept the messages to myself. I'm also being told I could have just avoided all of this by knowing I shouldn't attend my ex's wedding. I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong or I'm being gaslit by an insecure woman and her sister. So, am I the a-hole for attending my ex's wedding? Next story is, am I the a-hole for refusing to spend a lot of money on gifts from the baby to my stepdaughters? My husband, 33M, has 2 daughters, 9 and 8, from a previous marriage. He shares custody of them with his ex-wife Mina, 33F. They divorced 7 years ago. I met him 5 years ago, and we're almost 2 years married now. This is my 30F. First biological child. Things are tense between us and Mina. I mostly stay out of discussions between them because she does not like it, and ultimately, the girls don't need more tension between their 2 homes for the sake of me showing up. That doesn't mean I don't discuss things with my husband or that I'm uninvolved. But when it comes to communicating with their mom, I don't insist that my voice be heard equally like the 2 bio and legal parents. My husband would like me to be an equal part of it. But tension is significantly less since I made the decision not to sit in on these discussions, which I would only go to support my husband, but even that was something Mina disliked. I bring this up because this is being taken into consideration on this point. A few weeks before I found out I was pregnant, the girls told my husband Mina was pregnant. Mina is single for anyone who asks and is pregnant via a donor. They were really excited. When we told them we were expecting, they weren't excited. They see their mom having a baby as different than me having a baby with their dad. We get along, so this was a surprise. But they don't see me as a parent, so the baby isn't a sibling. While their mom's baby has just their mom, so they're real siblings. This is something being addressed via therapy and my husband and I talking to them. Now, on to the gifts. Mina bought the girls roughly $500 worth of gifts each that they'll get from the baby when she's born. My husband wanted us to do this too, and he told me we need to match it at least because they already prefer their sister from mom and still don't see their brother from us as a real sibling. Neither baby is born yet BTW. I told him I didn't think we should spend a lot on gifts like that. My husband said he's worried it's just another negative for our son if we don't. My husband's parents found out through Mina about the gifts, and they told us we better do better than that. I told them it was an insane amount of money to spend for this. They accused me of not caring about the girls and not valuing a good relationship or a good sibling relationship between them and my son. They think it's unreasonable to not want to spend a lot of money in these circumstances. Am I the a-hole? Next story is, am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law to shut up about it already? My mother-in-law has been talking constantly for the last 4 years about the relationship between my son, 4, and stepson, 16. My stepson's mom died when he was 5, and I married his dad when he was 11. He was 12 when my son was born, and he has never been an interested big brother. I'm not sure what other way to put it. He's completely indifferent to my son and doesn't call him a brother or half-brother. He said no to being involved in the pregnancy and helping to name the baby. When my son was born, he refused to hold him and has never held him. We don't have any photos of the two of them together because my stepson said no. He has been to grief therapy 3 times. When his mom died, when his dad and I remarried, and last year. We did go to family therapy for 18 months as well, and he opened up more about his feelings about everything. But he wasn't willing to work on trying to improve the dynamics overall. From day one of it being obvious, my stepson wasn't excited. My mother-in-law was saying it would be fine. He'd come around and just include him. My husband told her then that we couldn't force my stepson to decorate a nursery, pick toys and clothes for baby, or to offer name ideas. That we could ask, but he can say no, and making him would do nothing. She wanted us to make him come to a scan. After our son was born, she suggested we just give my stepson the baby, just make him take him, leave the baby in the room with him, and walk away. All kinds of things. She also tried encouraging my stepson to interact with the baby in a very forceful way, and my husband had to tell her to back off because at least he wasn't being hateful to the baby, but he could grow too if she makes him resentful. We took a break and she apologized and backed off saying things to or in front of my stepson, but she has continued to bring it up to my husband and me. We have gone from leave them in a room together and drop the baby into his arms without saying anything to get him to babysit where he'll have to take care of his brother and interact with him. She told me I should send our son into my stepson's room every morning to wake him up and encourage interactions to that. My husband told her again to stop, and she's not helping. Her response is he'll come around, and we should keep trying. Mother-in-law dropped some toys off for my son yesterday, and I was home alone. So, mother-in-law decided to start the same topic up, and I told her I didn't have time. But she said I should make time and figure out ways to get the boys bonded before it's too late. She said it's tragic that my stepson sees himself as an only child, and there has to be something because it shouldn't be taking this long to get better. That's when I told her to shut up about it already. I told her we have heard all this for the last almost 5 years, and it is not helpful or wanted. She told me I shouldn't talk that way to someone who wants to help. Am I the a-hole? That's it for today's episode. See you in the next video.